think shrooms is an eye-opener. Anytime somebody tries shrooms for the first time, any psychedelics, I think that's a big... It'll show you some things about yourself, and I think, really any drug, I guess, can do that. But I think shrooms it's from the earth. It'll definitely ground you. My last relationship that I had, I dated him for 5 years. And I honestly, I loved him. He was my best friend in the whole world. And, he was my person. And he was a person that I got along with so well. And, he did camera stuff and I did sound. So we were just this little power couple in the film industry. And it was very frustrating because he was a very sexual person and I was not. And it was like, well, how do you make this work? How do you make a relationship work when you have a very sexual person and a not very sexual person? But, looking back too, I was like, you know what? I should have known something was wrong, because asexual means you have no sex drive. And it's not that I didn't have a sex drive. It was just, it was weird. I just didn't like having sex. And obviously now I'm like, oh, it was because I didn't like having sex with men. But it wasn't until we decided, him and I were very serious. He was like, we were talking about marriage, and, I was really honest with him. I was like, we need to figure this out. I sat him down and I, had to be really real for a second, in the sense that I thought I was asexual and he was a very sexual person. So it was like, in the relationship, it was like somebody constantly, why can't we hug, kiss, let's go have sex or whatever, and I just wasn't into it, 90% of the time, and looking back on that too, I was like, gosh, how many times did I it's sad to say it out loud, but how many times did I force myself to have sex, and when I didn't want to? We had a couple of our friends in our friend group that were polyamorous. So Kenny and I started talking about opening up our relationship, doing the poly thing, and that way, and one of the things that kind of led to that was my friend being like, Leah, if you go poly, he could see other women, and that would kind of relieve that pressure off of you to have sex. And I was like, okay, never thought of it that way. That's something that interested me and allowed him to kind of do his own thing, and we still can be together. And when we talked about it, we researched polyamory for probably 8 months before we actually did it. So we read all the books, we did everything we were really supposed to do, did it in the healthiest way possible that you could possibly open up a relationship. And one of the main things was we just wanted to see what we could do if we're gonna get married for the rest of our lives. How can we make this work? And when we opened up our relationship, he asked me, he was like, well, what are you gonna get out of this? And, the main thing was for me to not have to have sex if I don't want to. But the other thing was, I was like, well, you know what? I've always had a feeling I was bi, so maybe I will explore my sexuality. And a mutual friend was like, hey, we're trying to get a group of people to go camping, save some money, share some spaces or whatever. Kenny and I got invited. So we got there, and the plan was to go camping, take some shrooms, hang out, and have fun. And, well, Mel and Em, my other friend, had gotten there before Kenny and I and our friend Bobby. And they went to the beach, and we headed straight to the campsite. And when we got to the campsite, they sent us a picture of them on the beach. So we got a picture, and I remember opening up this picture and seeing Mel for the first time. And she was just so cute. And I just remember seeing the picture and just going, whoa, who's that? And Bobby, our friend Bobby, of course, he was just looked at her and was like, oh, that's Mel, and she likes women, so go for it. And like, just bluntly said it. And of course, that just like, I think made my brain go even more like, oh, okay, this is even more of a possibility. So yeah, we took mushrooms, and I hope my mom doesn't see this, or my dad, but but that's the truth, it's the truth. I tried mushrooms for the first time and saw life and death. And just, you know, it was, we took it in the woods, in camping. That was an interesting trip because I found out a lot about myself, and I analyzed a lot of things in my life, and not only did I have this massive crush on Mel, but I was just like, during that trip, I remember huddled around the group of girls just being like, guys, I'm pretty sure I'm bi. And I just literally said it. It was the first time I had said it out loud and just told people. And, you know, of course they were ecstatic. It was a bunch of queer women, so they were very, very happy for me. Had a moment. I just broke down. I just started crying, and I just realized how much, like, you know, pressure my mom had put on me a lot of my life. You know, she wanted this perfect child. You know, skinny, blonde, you know, whatever it was, athletic. It really made me analyze myself. It really flipped me inside out and showed me like, hey, like, you have trauma in your life, like from the church, from being Christian, from men that didn't respect you. And that was the night I realized how much I had been gaslighting myself. I think the mushrooms really allowed myself to think of my feelings. Like, it was really like, it put it out there, and it was just like, here is what's happening. There was this like wave of like safety that came over me when I realized I was gay. Like, I remember like thinking like, oh my God, I'm gay, like another man, like I don't have to like be with another man for the rest of my life. And this just like security blanket came over me, and I was just like, I felt so like just safe. I felt like, I don't even know how to describe it. It was just this incredible, like, you know, relief. I guess it's just relief. And I just couldn't believe, like, I had just allowed myself to keep doing what I was doing for, I was 30 when I came out a year ago. Everything just fell into place, and I ended up asking Mel out on a date. And, you know, she was very skeptical because she's not involved in polyamory, but she was willing to give it a go. And she told me at the time, you know, she's very spiritual, and she was like, yeah, my cards told me that you were coming, and I didn't know who it was, and I couldn't, you know, she was very much like, I didn't want to deny love. So she just said yes to it just to see what happened. And I was very open with her. I just, you know, I said, I mean, she was through the whole camping trip, so she saw me through my whole identity crisis and me coming out. And I was like, you know, obviously I've never been with a woman. I don't know if I'm actually into women. Like, you know, this is very much so brand new to me. And I was very open with her about all of that, because I didn't want to be the woman that like thinks I'm gay and then hurt somebody in the process. I didn't want to be the person that is like the experiment, you know, just experimenting with somebody. So I was just trying to be very upfront with her and just be like, I don't know, like I've never been with a woman, so I don't know. And she was still like, all right, let's go on a date, let's see what it's like. And that was when everything spiraled for me. You know, we got together, we went on a date, and from there we went on a couple more dates. And when I actually slept with her was when everything clicked. And it was just like, okay, I'm not asexual, I am gay. And it was heartbreaking because I had been with this guy for 5 years, and he saw it happening. I think he knew what was coming too. And, you know, it was hard. It was so hard because it was like losing, you know, somebody that had been in my life constantly for 5 years. And, you know, he told me, he was like, before we even went poly, and when I told him that I might be bi and whatnot, you know, he was very supportive, and he just said, you know, if you end up finding out that you're gay, like, it's okay. And he even said those, but it doesn't make it easy. You know, like when you think you love somebody and you think you're gonna get married and spend the rest of your life with somebody, and it hurt pretty bad, you know, knowing that I was gonna hurt him. But at the same time, I knew he deserved the kind of love that I wasn't giving him. He saw Mel and I together at one point, and he was like, Leah, this is all I've ever wanted from you. Like, I've wanted you to hold my hand and hold me. And, you know, in our relationship, it had been at a point where he'd have to ask me to touch him. He would just be like, can you just rub my back? Can you just hold me? Can you hold my hand? And I was just like, oh, I'm just not a touchy person. Like, I'm just not that kind of person. And I am that person. I'm just gay. So